Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and we have the extraordinary privilege today, once again, to be with Venus visitor and contactee and author Raymond Keller, and Venus and Pleiadian contactee Robert Potter. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Alfred.
Yeah, and Robert, please introduce our panel today, which is going to be, I believe, on Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure, the title of his book. But Raymond Keller has actually spent, I believe it was 6 weeks on Venus, and that is quite an accomplishment for an Earth human, for a university professor Earth human, I might add.
Yes.
And so I turn it over to you.
Well, actually, it was 10 weeks. He was fortunate enough. And this is Dr. Raymond Andrew Keller II. He is actually acknowledged by the Venusians themselves as the Venusian historian, the prime Venusian, I would say, researcher, investigator, contactee, and visitor that has probably released more information on Venus than anyone for thousands of years to more people. Now with these books, they're extremely well written, and you can get them all on Amazon.com. It's called the Venus Rising Trilogy. We've already done interviews with him on the Venus Rising, the first incredible book, and the second book, Rockets to Venus. And this book is Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second to lead you into this. But realize that Dr. Keller is already working on his 7th book now. He has been working diligently behind the scenes. He's finished his 4th and his 5th book. And I think I'm not sure where he's going to go with that. Cause you're working on the 7th book?
Yes, it's the 7th book. My first one was my dissertation at West Virginia University that got published by Mellon Press in Lewiston, New York. That was that one had a lot of it about Basque history and magic and religions, Basque religious beliefs and traditions and customs. And that one, it's kind of related in a metaphysical sort of way, but the other remaining 6 are about the planet Venus and about the emergence of the age of flying saucers and the extraterrestrial presence here on Earth.
The next book is called The Vast Venus Conspiracy, and he really goes quite a bit into the original contactees, the challenges they faced, and as in one of the Venus trilogy, which is talked about Adamski and the Silence Group and things like this. So for those of you people who find Raymond's story difficult to understand, there's so much damage from people, I think, in society, and now people can be trolls and just say negative things. It's really quite sad that someone of Raymond's intellect and character and research ability, with all the footnotes that he has, is disrespected and poo-pooed. But, I want to say that it's simply real, folks. And with all this negativity in the world today, I don't want to go into that at all today, but we see a lot of understanding coming to people about the level of manipulation and lies that are taking place in the mainstream media. And really, if we just focus on the negativity, we don't go anywhere. But the reality is we have to realize the lies. And this is so shocking. The red pill is causing people to vomit up their own negativity, their own beliefs, their own protecting of their belief systems of ignorance and complete manipulation. And it's okay. We just have to love them and understand what they're going through. At the same time, if you're not interested in this information, there's no need to post negative things about Raymond or me or Alfred or have a judgment on the information. Just take it all in. So that's one of the big things, I think, that if we can get to this next step here where people realize that everything's been lied, it's manipulation, and most people don't realize that those people involved in this lie manipulation, that the level of control and the amount of suffering that they would put upon people and are putting upon people knowingly and willingly in a conspiracy. It's not a theory. That word was created by the CIA to disrespect people who said Oswald was the only shooter. So that's Project Mockingbird. So just listen to this information that Raymond's going to present today. And folks, this stuff really goes off the charts as far as stretching your belief system. And we've talked about some of his information before, but this story is the culmination of a lifetime association with the now Queen of Venus, who he had originally met, was introduced to him by a gentleman named Gabriel Green as a Brazilian researcher. So he's going to go into literally the Akashic records and the time travel experiences. I'm not sure how long the PowerPoint's going to be, but you're going to have a fun time, Alfred, asking questions about the Akashic records. He was able to view his past lifetimes and things of this nature. So one of the things I wanted to do here before I sign off, and I might listen in for a little bit, but is to announce now officially the Mount Shasta Summer Conference 2020, taking place in Mount Shasta, California from August 26th to August 30th, is officially going forward. I have received notice from the venue. There will be no social distancing restrictions. There will be no masks need to be worn by us in their venue. They're allowing me complete freedom and autonomy to have as many people as I want. I think it seats 340. That would be kind of sardine-y, but it'd be nice if we could get the 200 people. So if I could, I'd like to share the screen real quick and share with you all a little bit about this Venus conference. It's a bit of a commercial, but we haven't had a lot of information out there in the UFO fields. A lot of the conferences have been canceled. So I think this is going to be the first ones. For those of you who missed Contact in the Desert, for other ones, there's a wonderful conference that I have every year in Mount Shasta, and Raymond Keller will be there. So not only will Raymond Keller be there, but we have quite a few other speakers. And I'm just going to go down here, all of this information. We start off with the little woman from Venus named Omnek Omnek. We're not sure she's going to be able to make it. We're trying to get her actually to move to Mount Shasta with her daughter. We've been in the works for that. And so it's very possible that we can have her out here, but she is actually helping caregive someone. So we'll have to see if she's going to come, but I pretty much have a confirmation from most everyone else. It says I have a little coronavirus thing, but I'm going to be changing this today. So the link is going to be in this talk here, but it's on Eventbrite, Meet the Venusians, Mount Shasta Summer Conference. So everything you need to know about the conference, what to bring, and who's appearing. And right now we have Omnek, my friend you're talking to today, Dr. Raymond Andrew Keller II, author of the Venus Rising trilogy books, available on Amazon, folks. And these new books are going to be amazing when they come out. We have Sarah Adams, kind of a mystic, psychic, intuitive, does healer. And then Luis Mostojo, who's also been on the show, a tremendous contactee with many interdimensional experiences. Literally in the inner earth. He's gone to Venus. He has been on spaceships, and he's been beneath and met the Great White Brotherhood in 3 different locations. We have Laura Eisenhower, the firebrand, the granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower, who's fighting for liberty, truth, and justice, and sharing a lot of her information. There's a gentleman named Adrius who was supposed to be from New Lyra in the Pleiades, which he very well may be, but he won't be coming this year. I haven't been able to reach him, so he's going to be coming. Myself, and then Lorian Fenton, head of the MUFON, has several radio shows, does a UFO contact show in the Bay Area often. And then Tracy Ash from England, who leads tours to South America. And then a very charismatic, powerful individual named Gavin Hukasian. He is a master Shaolin individual with tremendous wisdom and knowledge. If you ever follow him on Instagram, his name is Alpha Starseed. He does stuff like run up walls, do flips. He jumps off a 15-foot thing, running forward, and jumps and lands on his feet and does a roll. Very expert in Shaolin and metaphysical understanding of working with chi and pranic energy. So he will be leading. We're going to be having group meditations in a public location that's available to actually the general public as well. And he'll be doing meditation and exercises in the mornings. It's absolutely gorgeous up here in Mount Shasta now. It's green. And so Gavin Hukasian, we also have added Brad Olson. He's a researcher who's been down to Antarctica, and he's researching, he's an archaeologist, and he's been researching some of the giants and the giants beings that have been found around the world. And he's a regular on our UFO ancient astronaut type information. Of course, the world famous George Filer. He came several years ago, and we're hoping we can get him out there. And he has on his UFO contact report, people. And if you want to support George or any of these other speakers, they have their own marketing material. So you can purchase tickets there, and that will on their websites and get a hold of them. We also have a guy named John Recorder. We've had him on the show. His name is Juan, actually. He's from Mexico. And when we were down in South America several years ago in Bolivia with Luis Martens, he had been sighting some ships, the first person to see them. And he had his own personal experience on one of the excursions. He was out very late at night. A spaceship landed. He could see the door open and a being there from, maybe half a mile away. And he has had continuous sightings above his house with large groups of ships, making a lot of displays going into the volcano of Mexico. He'll be sharing how he's established contact, what he feels, and he is his own, let's call him like James Gilliland. Juan has just an amazing, right in downtown Mexico, these ships are showing up kind of on the outskirts, but tremendous number of sightings, day and night, quite phenomenal. We also have Jamie Liu, a local mystical sound healer who's an expert on the crystal bowls, and will give a wonderful information on her healing techniques. And we have Shambhala, a friend of mine who will act as our MC in introduction. And he's kind of an interesting spiritual poet, wonderful energy, will lead us all. We have another group we're going to have is Wings Over the Desert. And that is Robert Peralta's band with some incredible performers from Canada, actually, out there in Vancouver, are going to be coming. And so it's going to be quite the lineup. It's going to be 5 days. I think we're going to have, there's a woman named Shari Lynn who will be coming, and she may be leading some meditations in the mountain. We may also have some other surprise guests. Who knows who's going to show up, but it's going to be quite a thing. So you can read all about it here. I just wanted to let everyone know also, because this is kind of a good thing if anyone's interested. If you're not, you can fast forward a couple minutes, but we have the directions to the location. We have free camping. Some of this is free. Some of this will cost a little bit. If you want this place probably is not open, but they have showers. But they probably will be by the time of August, so you can't reserve anything now. But we have hotels, motels, everything you need, what you should bring. The volunteer positions are pretty much filled right now. I have translators. We are possibly looking for sound and video, but it's going to be great. So here's your biographies here. We're going to be getting some of this up and changing a little bit. So it's going to be really fun. So for 5 days, I think it's $375. That's pretty reasonable. That does not include food or lodging or anything, but it's going to be a wonderful conference. And I just wanted to encourage people to understand, first of all, there's no restrictions on domestic travel. This is all part of a situation where they're trying to get people to follow their narrative and their directive, to see how far you will follow restrictions. And also, one of our most important guests, saving him for last, is going to be Alfred himself. And we're going to hopefully do a live stream, but we'll do a test beforehand. But I think we're going to get a pre-recorded presentation from Alfred that will be shown at some point during these 5 days. You can travel on planes, folks. All you have to do is get your temperature checked, wear a mask in the airport, and you can fly here. You can drive here all day long. California is opening up. In Mount Shasta, the restaurants are opening. The gyms are open. You can sit next to people in a bar without a mask, 2 feet. We're not practicing social distancing as directed by the governor. This is a free country. And so we're moving forward with that. So this is very good news. I'm feeling very positive that a lot of people are waking up due to efforts, especially by Alfred and some of our other premier hosts. So that's what I wanted to share on the conference. And in parting, I will just say, ladies and gentlemen, Raymond is one of the most experienced UFO contactees. And as you read his books, he's a cagey character. He hides a lot of metaphysical experiences in there. So when you're thinking like, how does he know that? Or where did he get that information? This comes from his vast experience on Venus. If you follow the Ascended Master teachings of the Spirit of Truth and the understanding of God, not as an anthropomorphic being, but as a universal creative source, you'll realize that Raymond has a tremendous amount of information in metaphysical and spiritual areas, which is not religious. But he met it has a religious connotation. He met the Ascended Master we would call El Moria, who's also known as Lord Dismas. Our Catholics and some of the Christians would know him as the accidental apostle, the one who died with Christ on the cross, who said, "You'll be with me in paradise." And in Ray's excellent Venus adventure, he gets up there, and quite a story, which we've kind of talked about, and I don't know how much he's going to talk about that. I would probably just focus on that for this book myself. But he gets up there, and they watch the ascension from the fourth dimension to the ascended master status of the previous Queen of Venus, Lady Mazu, who graduated on the Mayan calendar, actually is related to Venus, and on December 21st, she ascended to the Grand Central Sun, and they announced the new queen. El Morya announced, as a regent of Venus, the new queen was sitting next to Raymond. So this is the theme, kind of the most important aspect of Raymond's books. But he went to, excuse me, the next day or so, he had the brash personality, goes up and says, he went straight to the source. He said, Master Morya, can I, or Lord Dismas, I guess he called him, he said, can I look at the Akashic records? Because they don't normally do that, but he received permission. And that story opens up the tremendous amount of information and experience that he had there. So without further ado, I want to thank you for letting me come on to help introduce Raymond. You're going to have a tremendous show. And one other thing I'd like to announce is, I keep saying this, my website's going to be up, it's going to be up, but it will be up. I have a new designer who's going to put a lot of the coding things together. And Raymond Keller is going to have a special place on my website. He is going to be answering all your questions. And I'm not sure what we're going to call it. The Cosmic Postman. You can send your questions directly to Raymond, and they're going to be posted as soon as he answers them. They're going to be a blog on my post, and we'll probably get this going in about 2 weeks. So Raymond will be giving his email address information, and he'll get a backlog of questions, and we're going to launch it with quite a fanfare of any questions you have that he deems worthy of answering. We're going to have a series of questions on a regular basis on the website, thepromiserevealed.com. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Rob. Much appreciated.
It's my pleasure. I'm going to mute, and I'm going to be here, but you guys have a great show. Alfred, enjoy Dr. Keller and his amazing stories, and hope you folks will all see me, and we'll call you. We'll give me a call if you need any help with the tickets, and we'll see you in Mount Shasta this summer. Thank you so much, you guys.
West Virginia, the same publishers of my 2 new books that are coming out at the premiere of the Venus Conference in August, The Vast Venus Conspiracy and Lady Columba's Venus Revelation. So stay tuned for those. Now I'm just going to take you on a brief overview of Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure. We're going to look at the mysterious Venusians, sometimes called the Bee People. They originally came from a planet called Norca in the Tau Ceti system, which is about 12 light years away. And the planet Norca is one of 5 other planets in the habitable zone that orbit Tau Ceti. They were suffering from a process of desertification. The planet was turning into a vast desert about 25 million years ago. So they set out to find a new home and arrived in our solar system at the planet Venus. So the other indigenous life form on Venus, a vastly intelligent species of bees. So the planet is known as Planet of the Bees, or Abahar, Planet of the Bees, by its local inhabitants. In the first chapter, I look at UFO sightings over Canada. And I concentrate on Wilbur Smith and the Topside UFO group in Ottawa, Canada, and many of the UFO revelations that came from Smith and his group. At Shirley's Bay, outside of Ottawa, he ran a UFO tracking station that was sponsored by the Department of Transportation and the Canadian government. He was a radio engineer. And all kind of startling information in there. And all revealed in the pages of Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure for the first time anywhere, really, in great detail. Then looking at what we know about Venus in the third dimension, many parts of the planet today are uninhabitable on the surface, although there are some areas that are okay, especially in the polar regions of the planet. But most of the life in Venus in the third dimension is actually underground. And there have been many revelations about this by Venus contactees over the years, including Omnek Onek, and before that, George Adamski and Dr. Frank Stranges with the fantastic case of Valiant Thor and his visit to Washington, D.C. So more about Venus in the third dimension, fourth dimension, and higher dimensions in all the Venus books. Okay, flying saucers are real. The government is an illusion. Many revelations about intelligent life on Venus, as well as other planets in our solar system and beyond, have been hidden by NASA that I call NASA, never a straight answer. And this is a quote from Dr. Edgar Mitchell, an astronaut, NASA astronaut, that aliens have contacted humans several times, but governments have hidden the truth for 60 years. So looking at the space program of not only the United States, but of Russia, of the European Union and Japan, we could piece together what the true facts are about what has been discovered about not only life on Venus, but alien bases on the moon and other planets in our solar system, and the existence of life on other exoplanets in systems beyond our own solar system. As far back as 1948, Project Sign revealed that the Air Force and the government knew that there were 22 solar systems in our immediate spiral arm of the Milky Way that were inhabited by intelligent beings, as well as intelligent beings on the other planets of our own solar system. So all of these are explored in Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure, as well as the other books. And it's interesting that Paul Hellyer, who was a defense minister in Canada during the Pearson administration from the early 60s, 1960 through 1964, has said that there are at least 80 planets that the NATO countries, North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries, are privy to knowledge of their existence. 80 extraterrestrial species that have been operating here on Earth. They have their operatives here on our world, and most of them, for the most part, are friendly in nature, although there are a few rogue elements. And all of Paul Hellyer's research and comments are explored in the Canadian chapter in the Venus book. So the Venusians inhabiting the closest planet to the Earth would be the most severely affected by our careless deployment of nuclear weapons. I mean, Venus at its closest approach is only 26 million miles away. And in cosmic terms, that's a drop in the bucket. So what we do on Earth, as far as nuclear armaments and weapons of mass destruction, and the careless, careless and heedless abuse of our environment has its effects throughout the whole solar system, but particularly on Venus. So that would give them a good cause to come and intervene from time to time, working behind the scenes. Many examples, not only Valiant Thor's mission, 3-year mission from 1957 to 1960, but also there's another case in Italy where the contactee on the 4th of October 1962 received revelations that he published from the Venusians in La Sicilia newspaper. And he said that there was going to come an imminent confrontation in a very short time between the Soviet Union and the United States over nuclear weapons based in Cuba. And sure enough, from the 16th to the 28th of October, a couple weeks later, the Cuban Missile Crisis. So this and many other cases where the Venusians have intervened, but they haven't, taken credit or generally acknowledged what they were doing. And even back in the early 1950s, with the beginning of atomic testing, the flying saucers were deploying from Venus, scout craft and the huge carrier ships as well, Saturn-class observation probes, registered disks. They were deploying these green fireballs in the vicinity of atomic test areas in both the United States and the Soviet Union to neutralize atomic weapons. So all that's covered in the book. Cosmic avatars provide enlightenment. Many people from all walks of life and all various cultures around the world have had contact with Venusians from various levels and planes of existence. This is Supreme Master Ching Hai in Taiwan, enlightened her followers about advanced forms on 2 ultra-dimensional levels of Venus in our solar system. And when we look all the way back into the beginnings of the age of flying saucers with Meade Lane and Borderland Sciences Research Associates down in San Diego, George Adamski, when he was still at Laguna Beach, they were talking about the existence of other planets in our solar system that we can't even see. So there are 60 planets in our solar system, of which we only have knowledge of about 10 of them so far. This is Earl J. Neff. He was a pioneer ufologist, and I worked with Earl Neff in the early years in the Cleveland Ufology Project. There was an article in National Enquirer about me and Earl Neff. He helped myself and Ellen Weston, young teenagers at the time, to publish the Flying Saucer Report, which we traded publications with and information with various ufologists around the world. Gabriel Green of Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America, Gray Barker of Saucers and Unexplained Celestial Events Research Society, and Jean Duplantier of Saucer Space and Science up in Willowdale, Ontario, Canada, and the groups in Australia, and very, very many other groups. Contact in Major Peterson's group in Denmark, many other groups, and APRO, of which I was a member of, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, which was in Tucson, Arizona. So without Earl's help, he was also one of the early members of the Untouchables. He was a sketch artist for Elliot Ness when he was the safety commissioner in Cleveland, Ohio in the 1940s. Here's the article in the National Enquirer over 50 years ago. Those are issues of the Flying Saucer Report that I'm holding. I'm the one at the on the left with the moon in back of me. And this comes from Gray Barker's files, the Gray Barker collection. And there's a whole file about me and the Flying Saucer Report and my activities with UFO research going back some 55 years. Okay, this is Dolores Barrios, the Queen of Outer Space. This is the second photo taken of her by Brazilian photographer Ed Keffel on the slopes of Mount Palomar around noon on the 8th of August, 1954. There was a contactee convention being held there at the Skyline Lodge on the slopes of Mount Palomar, with the three contactees that were in attendance at that time who were very prominent during the day: George Adamski, Daniel Fry, and Truman Bethlehem. And at that time, the people said, "Oh, she looks very much like the portrait of the Venusian saucer pilot that Adamski had unveiled by an artist named Gay Betts that was shown in the lobby of the Flying Saucer Convention." So she was accompanied by two gentlemen, and were being besieged the whole time at this convention. People wanted to ask her all kinds of questions about Venus and life on Venus, and she was interviewed by João Martins, a journalist from O Cruzeiro weekly news magazine in Brazil, for a feature story that he was doing in the 24 October 1954 issue. And so that's where these original photos came from. But the people at the convention ended. It was a 2-day convention, all day on the 7th and half a day on the 8th of August. And then at that time, at the time that the convention ended, there was this huge swarm of bees that came down, of curiosity seekers, that blocked the seekers from coming after her. They were running down the slope to the parking lot. They were standing at the edge of a tree line, and Ed Keffel, who was the photographer for O Cruzeiro, was taking pictures. And then after the pictures were snapped, and then the bees were deployed, they managed to escape in a like a column of light. But at the very same time, in Shirley's Bay, Ontario, all the instruments went haywire. So it was 3:01. It was 3:01 at Project Magnet in Canada, at the Shirley's Bay UFO observation post. And it was 12:01, just 1 minute past noon, out in California. And I have various documentation to prove all of this, that this was a synchronous event that was somehow tied in because of this massive surge of energy, for them to be actually teleported out of that conference. And let me see if I can bring that up for you. I'm going to show you a September 1954 issue of the APRO Bulletin. This was Aerial Phenomena Research Organization that was then in Wisconsin, and it was the second issue published by Coral Lorenzen that documents that this is for real. One moment, I'm going to try to do that. Okay. And okay. All right, let's see here. Okay. There we go. No. And we're going to August, then September was the coverage. So that would be 1954. There we go. Okay. And I want to share. Okay, share screen. Huh. Oh, there we go. Okay, is that up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's see if we can find this on here. Okay, this is what you're looking at, is the APRO Bulletin from September 15th, 1954, issue number 2, with Coral Lorenzen as the editor. And she was so ahead of her time as far as ufology goes. And in the article that I sent you to share with readers, I document her association with Ed Keffel and Joe Martins for other UFO investigations prior to this in Brazil, and also her friendship with George Adamski. Okay, and okay, let's see. This. So they had traveled from, moved APRO around from Los Angeles to Sturgeon Bay, and then back out west to Tucson, Arizona. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, August 8th, 1954. Wilbert H. Smith, engineer in charge of the Transport Department's Flying Saucer Station at North Bay, let out the news that the station's gravimeter was tripped at 3:01 p.m., which would have put it at 12:01, right after the Flying Saucer Convention dispersed, and Dolores, Barrios, and her posse, disappeared in a column of light. Unexplained object is how it was described by newspapers. Smith convinced deflection not caused by an aircraft. He said it had to be something scientists know nothing about, or an instrument failure. The gravimeter detects and records gamma rays, magnetic fluctuations, radio noises, and gravity and mass changes in the atmosphere. Smith was on duty when the incident occurred, said the deflection in line greater and more pronounced than when large aircraft passes over. He ran outside to look at the sky, found overcast at 1,000 feet, so that whatever was up was concealed by a cloud layer. We are inclined to believe Smith got a live one, that his superiors put out the phony closing shop story on the saucer station, just as the United States Air Force lied to the public about their investigation in 1948 and proceeded to go underground. That was the Project Sign that I was mentioning before, and the revelation that there were 22 other inhabited solar systems. In the August 1st issue of Maclean's magazine, which is a Canadian publication, an article about lighthouse keeping bears an interesting bit. The assistant keeper, okay, so it's talking about just a rundown on Canada in general, and the cover up over there, and APRO's activities and contacts in Canada. Their primary one was Jean Duplantier, who was also an artist for various science fiction publications, that went on to publish his own UFO magazine, and then to work closely with Gray Barker and some other ufologists at the time. So everything that appears in these Venus books is documented somewhere, and I provide the footnotes and the documentation. So as Rob was pointing out, a lot of this information is so incredible that like this about a massive power surge affecting the whole world, but it teleported some Venusians off the planet at a flying saucer convention. That people might say it just looking at it firsthand, that it's too much of a woo-woo type thing, but really it's not, and they could find and follow up on everything that's documented, the footnotes, publications, dates, actual photographs, and everything. But let me get back to okay. Is the picture back up?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. 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 So this is this is a drawing by Jean Duplantier of what Orthon looked like, that's showing that she's was actually a girl. And Jean Duplantier went to go see George Adamski and to interview him, as well as some of the witnesses to the Venusian saucer landing on the 20th of November, 1952. They came to the 24th of March, 1954. They came to Detroit, Michigan, sponsored by the Flying Saucer Club there, Interplanetary Friendship Group of Laura Mundo, that was sponsoring Adamski's visit. And Alice K. Wells, she was one of the 6 witnesses to the saucer landing in Desert Center, California. And the Canadian artist and ufologist Jean Duplantier did this drawing of Orthon based on the description provided by Alice K. Wells. So we see that that Orthon was really a girl. And Duplantier was an illustrator of science fiction pulp magazines with a burgeoning interest in the UFO phenomena. Based on the description of Orthon provided by Alice K. Wells, Duplantier came up with his sketch of Orthon, who closely resembles the enigmatic Dolores Barrios. Wells attested that this drawing was quite accurate. So I know that there's been, other people that say, Orthon was a male, but really not. And I went to interview Peter Core and took pictures of at his home and his library. He was in the greater Cleveland area. His real name, I don't know if I should give it or not, but he worked at the Livermore Laboratories and was an early member with George Hunt Williamson, who was one of the witnesses out there with Wells and the other party, and actually took the plaster cast of the footprints of Orthon. And Williamson sent these footprints to his research associate, a nuclear physicist that worked at Livermore, and was on the board of the Telonic Research Society. And I've published the letters from the Telonic Research Society on their official letterhead between Adamski and Peter Core, which is the name that he used when he wrote for Raymond Palmer's Amazing Stories magazine out of Amherst, Wisconsin. And he analyzed the plaster cast, and he said that this didn't come from a male, it was a female slipper of a size 6 size, and attested to that in a testimony about the footprint, as well as the validity of the footprint and the unique designs and symbols that were on the bottom of the slipper that was embedded in the sandy ground there at Desert Center, California.
Anyway, I was going to pipe in here for a second and say, yeah, that's interesting information from the old days. But if you think about it, because Kaz actually got to meet this woman, that is actually more relevant firsthand information. And also, you understand from his book that she was born in 1585. So she has had a very long lifespan on the earth. And not only was she the first contactee of George Adamski, because at that time she was a dual citizen, approximately 400 years old, living on Earth exclusively for about 245 years, and becoming a dual citizen of Venus from the year 1830. And now, with the Earth's importance in the transition that's taking place, to have such a wise and long-lived Earth person / Venusian to become queen was a wise decision by the Venusian hierarchy, as she knows our Earth intimately, has lived here, and is quite qualified to navigate the very delicate situation that we're in, as far as explaining to the Galactic Confederation the Venusians' viewpoint, and from her own experience on the psychology and the peoples of the Earth. So obviously women are venerated and respected throughout the universe, and it's not uncommon that this happens. Anyway, I am going to leave the meeting, guys, but I hope you guys all enjoy that. And Kaz, so why don't you tell them how you got to Venus? All right. See you guys.
Okay. Well, there's a full description of these accounts and everything in the very first book, which is Venus Rising: A Concise History of the Second Planet, in the last chapter. But as I had mentioned before, I like the viewers to actually check out the information in the book, see the photographs, view the documentation, because when I just talk about it, people just will apply this woo-woo factor and just kind of dismiss it. But if they actually check out the information for themselves, then they come blown away, because there's no denying that it's all for real. So one of the modes of transportation that the Venusians have are these orbs that they can fly around in and transport themselves, like we would drive around in a car. And some of our astronauts have seen these in space around the International Space Station, as well as over many places on Earth. These small orbs, and even in the Bible and ancient literature, there are examples of celestial beings being transported in orbs or orb-like devices. Here we see the prophet Elijah being carried up into heaven, and in an orb, and the four horses are just representative of some type of power source, as they didn't have a way to describe electromagnetic propulsion or anti-gravity or any such things back in the day, so to speak. So I not only look at Venusians, but other extraterrestrials in a planetary alliance, beings from Lyra, beings from Aldebaran, from the Pleiades, other star systems, and the ancient Anunnakis, all kinds of startling information and amazing connections there with other extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings in all the pages of the Venus Rising books, describing the cosmic evolutionary process that we of Earth go through to our connections with extraterrestrials. Their guidance and assistance helping us along the way. This is another contactee, one with the Pleiadians. Of course, Rob Potter himself has has met many Pleiadians on various occasions, and I'm sure he's going to talk about that in some greater detail as well at the Venus convention. Billy Meier from Switzerland, and his experiences are documented in Gary Kinder's book called Light Years, and Wendell Stevens' accounts as well. And let's see, the extraterrestrial there was named some Jazi. Okay, over the rainbow. This a scientific examination of a bridge of light, or a rainbow bridge that connects the Earth with Venus and other planets at the north polar regions of all the planets in the solar system, proceeding out from the sun and then arcing back to the sun. And it's kind of like a cosmic pathway. And this whole chapter explores that connection. In Norse mythology, Freya was one of the Valkyrie, or a warrior goddess. She was also recognized as a goddess of sensual love and fertility. Like Venus to the Romans, Freya to the Norse people was considered to be the most beautiful and propitious of the goddesses. And what's interesting about the Norse mythology is that this is where the knowledge of this rainbow bridge comes from, that connected the gods with their own world, with Valhalla. So we see a stream of energized particles forms over the North Pole, creating the aurora borealis. So did the ancient astronauts recognize the feasibility of transiting this phenomena as a sort of cosmic bridge, connecting the Earth with the polar regions of other planets in the solar system? NASA has actually explored this phenomena. They've sent cluster space probes to discover a phenomena called magnetic reconnection over the Earth's northern polar region. This is a European Space Agency credit for this picture. So this is interesting because I provide documentation in the book from various space agencies relating to a rotational magnetic field structure detected on Venus, among many other mysteries. So Venus doesn't have to have as dense a magnetic iron core as the Earth. In fact, most of Venus is crisscrossed by played out lava tubes and caverns, but it generates a strong electromagnetic field in its atmosphere by this process of magnetic reconnection and energy from the sun. So everything that NASA didn't tell you, I found out from Chinese Space Agency, Japan JAXA Space Agency, the European Union, and Russian Venera probes. So it's all documented in the Venus books. NASA and the Venus conspiracy. It's kind of technical, but it is talking about this plasmoid flux rope, which is a technical description of this cosmic bridge and magnetic reconnection that allows the Venusians and other Solarians to easily transit between the planets of our own solar system. And then the account of this German ace, this is Günther Specht, and he flew a rocket, like a kind of last-ditch effort by the Third Reich to bomb America at the end of World War II. And his mission is all documented and described in the Venus books. He was a friend of Kurt Tank and Werner von Braun and many others as a test pilot. And he was reported missing in action on the 1st of January, 1945. A plane was discovered of a mission he was supposed to be on in France. The plane crashed, but nobody in it, because he was actually deployed on a 3-stage prototype rocket, where he got lost through this rainbow bridge and ended up crash landing on Venus, going through the time barrier millions of years into the past. And his all the documentation about him and his story is all in the Cosmic Rays Excellent Venus Adventure. And it was Omnek Onek in her book about her trilogy about Venus. She had mentioned that her village on Venus is named after was named in honor, founded by a German astronaut who came there long, long ago, that they called a great scientist. And I didn't even know about that when I was researching this. So Omnek and myself were quite surprised, but this is a vindication of everything that she said. And it's all the German records, they're all documented about this special program and everything in the Venus book. This is Major Gunther Specht and Professor Kurt Tank. And they worked with the aerospace engineer Werner von Braun on developing advanced aircraft, as well as the New York rocket bomb. So some of the things that the Germans learned about outer space and Venus and traveling in space at the close of World War II, then that information, of course, was transferred through Project Paperclip to the United States and NASA, and first our missile program and then NASA. So very valuable information that would serve us well as we developed our own space program in the United States. And then some of the German scientists went over to Russia to help them develop their space program as well. This is showing gold as being particularly beneficial for space travel because it's highly reflective and protective against radiation. So everything in the German rocket was plated with gold. Rocketing to Venus. This is another photo of the legendary scientists of Venus. Noctilucent clouds. This is some of the things that he saw and that he wrote about. And I did research with Andy Reese of the Weekly World News to document this information. He was the correspondent writing about metaphysical subjects and UFOs, despite the fact that it was a tabloid press. The information pertaining to UFOs was quite accurate. And he shared the information about the German astronauts, and he and I also wrote a book together before, but that was never published. And so now I'm just carrying the information forward as I'm in the autumn of life, so to speak. So I want to make sure that I get this information out there. Okay, so what secrets does Venus have to share? And all of this amazing information is available in the Venus books. And I'm not representing any organization or any religion or cult or anything. I just represent myself in these Venus books. So you don't have to worry about being recruited for anything. Although I would say that that the Venusians do live and work among us. They're always there, and they're sensitive to our perception. You never know when you might meet them. Maybe perhaps they'll make themselves known to you, or you'll just sense that you're in the presence of these celestial beings. Remember that the Apostle Paul wrote in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2, that we should always be kind to one another, for know ye not that ye entertain angels unawares. Okay. Then this is in chapter 4. I'm looking at some of the events in California and the flying saucer conventions that took place out at Giant Rock, and some of the research being done at the dawn of at the atomic and space ages, a time very critical, a time in the timeline, in our current timeline, and explaining a lot in this book about in this chapter about time travel and my own journey back in time to attend this convention. And so it's all here in the book. This is the source of the power source for the Venusian carrier ships and other devices is an element that we call Californium-245. It's an isotope with a half-life of about 45 minutes in a free neutron. They have a neutron pulse engine that consumes this stuff. Okay, this is myself in previous incarnations, and understanding my mission to come back to Earth following an operation that I had, an open heart surgery, to come back and share this information about Venus before I transition on to another incarnation. There's a lot of data in my book from various people prominent in the 1950s. This is a drawing by Dominic Lucchesi, a staff artist for James W. Mosley's Saucer News, a sketch of Commander Aura Reigns, based on a description provided to him by the contactee Truman Bethlehem, who is the prime speaker at the 1954 first interplanetary spacecraft convention at Giant Rock on the 4th of April of 1954. Aura Reigns. And Rob and I had the opportunity to meet her. Various Venusian symbols. This was one of the symbols on the bottom of the shoe. That was the plaster cast taken by George Hunt Williamson. You see a lava room. It's a four-headed symbol. It's also common in the Basque culture, and the four heads of the symbol represent continued enlightenment, zest for living, spiritual ascendancy, and the quest for beauty in all of creation. Okay, this is a design of a time bubble that was envisioned by the DC comic book writer and artist Otto Binder. Now, Otto Binder, besides creating over 200 comic books, and science fiction superheroes. He also wrote 5 books about UFOs, some with August C. Roberts, and the photographer who took the pictures of Valiant Thor, and at the meeting at High Bridge, New Jersey. But as many other UFO conventions and UFO photos throughout the world. But Otto Binder's files had extensive coverage of the 1954 convention out at Giant Rock. He created the character Supergirl, 1959 comic book. That's the cover of it. So here's myself. This is myself and Dolores Barrios. This is on the cover of the 3rd book. She's affectionately known as the Queen of Outer Space. So through an accident, we traveled through a rift in the space-time continuum and ended up in 1954 at the Giant Rock Convention. We were just supposed to be observing it with a time monitoring device, but Truman Bethlehem at that time was told by Orra Raines that he should keep a scrapbook to monitor all the nuclear testing activity for posterity. And it shows newspaper clippings of atomic testing a week before and a couple weeks after, involving the creation of a tachyon stream moving both forward and backward in time and space. So it caused our time observation device to crash in the desert. And this is taken by Pal and Dixie Garrett of the Paradise, California Flying Saucer Club, that they were in the area at the time. So they took a picture. They took a picture of us and helped hide us until we could find and get our way out of there and get back home. So that's what the rest of the book is about, how we did that. There were Air Force Office of Scientific Investigations people in the area at the time. So the Garretts just told them, well, what you were seeing were just some students from Caltech that were just launching some rockets out in the desert at night. Here's a Venusian scout ship in the hover mode, taken by Daniel Fry's wife. This is a picture that was in the Daily News newspaper of the 4th of April, 1954 at Landersfield, California. You could see that this is Dolores Barrios in attendance at that convention, that earlier convention. And the newspaper article talks about how she was escorted there by an elderly gentleman. And it's all very, very interesting and published in the book. This is a typical UFO, frequently seen over the Giant Rock Convention. You could see that it's described as an etheric vessel, a type of swoop. And this is all about the mysteries of Paradise, California, and Venusian contacts there, the early Flying Saucer Club in Paradise, California, and the Garretts and others, numerous sightings taking place over the Butte. It's called Butte County up there. And it's one of the very first flying saucer clubs in the United States. So I look at all of their clubs, records and archives. Paradise was the home of the first flying saucer club organized in the United States. The membership was obsessed with contacting Venusians, and the membership conducted sky watches throughout California looking for Venusian spacecraft. So this is the late Chrisana Duran. She's a Native American, originally from Oklahoma, but lived in Montana. And she and I worked together researching the history of Paradise and the Flying Saucer Club there. And this book was published in 2017, 2 years before the big fire destroyed everything that took place in Paradise. So, but everything about it is in the book and documented, so you could check up on it. One of the people that came to visit there was Lee Crandall. He wrote several books about the Venusians and return of the Venusians, and gave one of the few speeches in his life to a crowd of 200 people in Paradise, California, in the early 1950s. And what's amazing about that is that there weren't any paved roads to get up there. The city wasn't even incorporated till 1959. But to get 200 people out there, it takes a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get up there, and and back in the day, it took over 2 hours to get up that dirt road from Chico, which is only about 13 miles down the hill from where Paradise is located, to the east of it. So here's the explosion in the desert that of the time probe. We had to blow it up and not leave any evidence behind. This was the photo originally appeared in that same article in the Los Angeles Daily News, or as this photo of the Queen. Daniel Fry. The Garretts drove a 1953 Jeep Willys station wagon up and down the breadth of California, attending various meetings and sky watches with the various members of the Paradise Interplanetary Spaceship Club. Daniel Fry worked with the Falcon anti-aircraft missile program, and in 1949, he traveled from White Sands to New York City and back in less than 30 minutes aboard a flying saucer, a remote-controlled saucer. And that is, I have some photos. Oh, here's the Garretts. And throwing that around. Okay, there are some photos of Daniel Fry, never before seen, at the White Sands with his Air Force detachment, some airmen who were attached with him there. And
right now, we're not seeing anything on the screen.
Oh yeah, that was the end of the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the end of it.
We went through this at lightning speed. I mean, I would love to spend an hour on each slide.
Oh, wow. Well, yes, we could do that.
Yeah. And there was one particular slide, the Venus transit slide. The one on Venus transits. Could you go back to that and explain to us exactly what the Venus transits are? I think it was the one before the Rocket Man. Before
okay.
the Missile Man.
All righty. Let's see. Was that in this one or one of the other books?
Well, it was in this PowerPoint,
Okay, let's
and
see.
and you were talking about the Venus transit, and that is how people can get around to different planets
Oh,
through
yes,
the
yes.
Venus
Let me
transit.
get that one.
Could you just go through exactly what the Venus transit is and explain that to us?
Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, where we see the aurora borealis at the North Pole, there's a stream of particles from the sun that are trapped in a kind of vortex called a magnetic reconnection. And so the Final Countdown Rockets to Venus explores this phenomena in depth as to the nature of these particles, and how they have served for millions of years as a type of celestial bridge between the north polar regions of the different planets in the solar system. And when we look at all these different planets at the north polar regions, we see all kinds of strange phenomena. On Jupiter, you see a massive electric halo. On Saturn, you see this strange perfect hexagonal shape, or a pentagonal shape. And this is all evidence of this magnetic reconnection. So it depends on, this is formed by the solar wind from the sun. And on Venus, of course, it looks like it manifests as a huge, what looks like a cometary tail, but it extends for 5 million kilometers behind the planet in its orbit in space. And so that's why Velikovsky and others said that they thought Venus was just a huge type of comet, but it's a phenomena created by this magnetic reconnection.
I see.
So then what I did was, let me pull that one up. So you see that NASA and the European Space Agency, China and other countries have launched various satellites to discover more about this phenomena, but they haven't released the information very much to the public. So I had to look in obscure journals in Russia, Europe, in the United States, to find out more about this phenomena, to document it in these books, about the creation of this magnetic field structure around Venus, which is the point of this magnetic reconnection, and as a plasmoid flux rope, and
Right.
how various people throughout history have traveled through this flux rope, this magnetic reconnection. And in the case of the German astronaut, it carried him through a time barrier, millions of years into the past, to crash land on Venus.
Right. Now, this leads me to a second question, which perhaps just kind of in your own informal words, because in a way, the uh, could you just in very informal terms just describe what it was like your 10 weeks on Venus? That is sort of what I was expecting to see here. Oh, during the 10 weeks on Venus, well, on day 1 we went here, and on day 2 we went over here, and this is what the cities looked like, and this is what happened over here, and this is what happened over there. You know, sort of a travelogue to that. Is that anywhere recorded? Because I didn't get that.
Oh yes, it's
from
in
this.
it's in all the Venus books, but you know, because it's so so much information and so extensive,
I,
that what I've done is created a what I call cosmic rays mailbag,
I,
and so when people ask me these kind of questions,
yeah,
that rather than publish the information just for them, which I've done in letters and answering correspondence to me, that I begin to publish them with Rob's site and with Lon Strickler's phantomsandmonsters.com, so that people can have those those detailed answers.
now let me ask you just, this is a very, very straightforward, simple-minded question. And I don't know whether it's a proper question, but I'm just going to ask it. Would you be able to, or would it be proper for you to come back here and create a PowerPoint, or however you want to do it, that says, oh, this was my 10 weeks on Venus, and this is what I did, and this is what it looked like. Just very simple for us. Is that something that you would like to do, or could do, or would be permitted to do?
Oh yes, I'd be very happy to do that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I think that we would greatly benefit for that. Perhaps that's something that could be our next program.
Okay, yes, that could be done. In fact, I have something on like that already done.
Oh, good, good.
And the
Uh,
next two, it's the the fifth book in the series has a lot of that information as well.
oh, good. So what I'm thinking is that we can sit down off camera now and schedule a date, and then I'm going to be very excited, because then I can order your books and I'll have time to read them. And because I'm really looking forward to this, just kind of a travelogue, you know, oh, this is what we did and this is what it looks like, you know, and just something very, very simple.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, consider that done.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Now, do you have any kind of a summary, kind of summing up what we saw today? You know, that something like that you'd like to sum up what exactly we learned today?
Yes. Well, basically, the third book, well, the first book is an introduction to Venus and the mysteries of the planet generally, and then my initial experiences with the members of the Venusian hierarchy. The second book is about the efforts of people on Earth to contact Venusians and to discover more information about life on the second planet out from the sun in our solar system. And then the third book highlights the research that I did with Andy Reese about the German astronaut, as well as my own personal experiences on Venus. So you would have to, to read that book. But I can put that into a PowerPoint to share that with you.
Very good. Well, are there any final words or kind of that you'd like to sum up for our audience
Yes.
today?
There's been an extraterrestrial presence, and particularly a Venusian presence, on the Earth going back for thousands of years. They are in contact with thousands of individuals, although most prefer to remain unknown or largely unknown. However, many have come out and talked about it, probably for fear of this this woo-woo factor that's always dumped on contactees and UFO experiencers generally. But the Venusians have our best interests at heart. They have been working for our benefit and doing things to help us along in both our spiritual and our scientific evolution and advancement, and they will continue to do so as long as there are people of good heart here on the earth.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we want to thank you for this, and we really look forward to the next chapter in our exploration of Venus. Now, where can people get in touch with all of this information, and how can they get in touch with your books and etc.?
Okay, the books are available on Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Just Google in there, or at the top of the page, the search bar on Amazon, just type Keller Venus, and it'll take you to all three of them.
Oh, excellent.
And as far as if you have any questions that you want to ask me, I have been bombarded with lots of questions. So rather than answer them individually, I will put them in I will put the answers on the mailbag so that I don't get the repetition of the same questions. But you can write to my email address at rkeller, and then the number 1 at mix.wvu.edu. And I'll be happy to try and answer your question. And if I've already answered, if you have a question that I've already answered before for somebody else, then I'll forward the link to the website that contains that answer specifically for your question.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Yeah. So Raymond, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alfred. It was a great pleasure to be here and to share this time with you.
Excellent. Okay. And of course, Robert had to leave us, but we send our thanks to him.
Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person over on the slopes of Mount Shasta.
Well, I won't be there, but I'll be sending my film my film presentation.
Well, I know you'll be with us in spirit.
Exactly, but don't go away because we'll schedule.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome.